yourself, Melanie. Oh, okay, got it. All right, let me.
Yeah, I got it
Okay.
started.
Well, let me introduce you.
Okay.
Well, Melanie, as you guys might remember, most of you have met her before, at least seen her, because she has done 3 studies for us.
Right.
The first one to do with exercise, and
Right.
then 2 on the effects of the ketogenic diet. One was a 12-weeker, and then and it continued for a full 24 weeks. So that was kind of considered a separate study. And that's been published worldwide, which is really cool. So now she is ready to do another study on the effects of 3 different diets, and she's going to go into a lot of detail about that. Now, let me tell you about her. Well, let me give you the name of the study. You have to have really long names for these studies, don't you? This
Yes.
one, you study on the effects of the low-carb, healthy fats, ketogenic diet on cognition, sleep quality, fatigue, and quality of life in Parkinson's disease. Dr. Melanie Tidman completed a bachelor's degree in occupational therapy at Colorado State, a master's degree from the University of New Mexico, and her doctorate in health science from A.T. Still University, doctorate in health science program in 2011. This is a very smart and well-educated woman. She is currently working on certification as a metabolic health practitioner with the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, and a certification as a nutrition practitioner with the International Nutrition Network. Dr. Tidman has 40 years of experience as an occupational therapist in pediatrics, intensive care, and adult physical rehab, emphasizing neurology and neurosurgery rehab, which is great. She owned and directed Tidman Therapy Services, a pediatric rehab center, for 22 years, served patients with neurological and neurosurgical disorders in a neurosurgery intensive care unit for 20 years, and has expertise in all areas of inpatient and outpatient adult physical rehab with a specialized expertise in Parkinson's. She loves you guys because this is her heart.
Right. That's right. My passion.
Yeah, your passion. Thank you. That was a better word. Slightly brain dead today, so thank you for that.
All right.
Okay, so I'm going to go on and turn it over to her because her study needs a good description, and part of what she is doing today is recruiting participants in this 3-phased study that she will describe to you. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Melanie Tidman. Thanks, Melanie. Welcome.
You are so welcome. Hello, everyone. It's awesome to be back with you again. My very first research proposal to the Colorado Parkinson Foundation, which I will refer to as CPF, was in 2018. So, it's been a long-standing, wonderful relationship. I want to first thank CPF for their incredible commitment to funding research in Parkinson's disease. So many foundations don't do this, and I believe it's just of paramount importance to continue research efforts to find alternative treatments in many ways, and to support current treatments, medication and surgical interventions. And so again, I can't say enough about the board at CPF. They have been overwhelmingly supportive of what I've asked for. In addition, I want to recognize Keto Mojo. They are an organization that has and develops glucose and ketone tracking meters, and they also have been tremendously supportive of our research efforts. I want to thank LabCorp, another wonderful partner in this research. They have made just amazing contributions to us being able to run blood work on our participants and to understand the effects of our treatment interventions on biomarkers of health. In addition, this year, I want to thank Liberty University, where one of the universities that I am an adjunct professor in their doctoral and health science program. Liberty's Institutional Review Board this year is overseeing the ethics of our study. We are going to get started here. In addition, I would be really remiss if I didn't thank my incredible research team, Dr. Dawn White and Dr. Tim White. I wanted to mention that Dawn just finished her doctorate in health science and graduated about a month ago, I'm remembering. So yay, Dawn. Dawn has conducted some research for CPF on caregivers and quality of life. And I really appreciate the contributions of these two. They live on the East Coast in Virginia, and we are now getting ready to conduct our next study. Our 24-week study results are at the publisher. So we're hoping to have a good result and publication of our third study with CPF for, I actually also published a case study. So this will be our fourth study that will be published. So thanks again to the Whites. We will be working together on this new study. My disclosures: I am an adjunct professor for 2 medical schools and 2 social science schools. I've written 2 books and receive ongoing royalties from those books. And then I always disclose my intellectual bias. I believe that every speaker you hear should acknowledge their bias. My bias is that I personally practice the low-carb, healthy fat, ketogenic diet for my own health. And then I also apply this nutritional approach to the patients I work with. Since retiring from the intensive care unit in 2019, I see private patients via telehealth, which was one of the benefits that I think COVID brought us, was just an expansion of being able to work with patients all over the world using a telehealth format. I really do believe that a lot of what I'm going to share with you today is based on some solid research. We're going to go through some of these objectives. We're going to explore the standard American diet, which is the SAD diet used in the USA today and worldwide. Other countries have actually adopted our food pyramid as their food pyramid. So we'll see some of those effects globally. We're going to explore some of the historical facts and statistics on chronic disease, neurological disease, the changes in our food supply, and a little bit on pharmaceuticals, only not very much in this talk today. We're going to explore some current research. We're going to explore some facts and some methods, and then I'm going to introduce our new study this year. Some of you may have heard other talks that I've given, and so some of this will be review for you. Some of you may learn something new. So we've received ethics oversight and approval through the Liberty University Institutional Review Board, and we've been granted an international global registry with Biomedical Central in compliance with World Health Organization guidelines. So our study is very well monitored in terms of safety and potential publication. So a few facts to get started. In 1977, the USDA created a food pyramid. From that point on, the food pyramid is used to provide guidelines for school lunches, lunches that are served in health facilities, senior community centers, It's really widely used. The food pyramid also has some effects on dictating what's available in our food supply. So it's very far reaching. Every 5 years, these recommendations are reviewed. The most recent review was done in 2020. So a lot of what the food pyramid has been built on, I'm going to share with you in a bit. In 1978, Ansel Keys created or conducted the 7-country cholesterol study, which actually ended up being 23 countries that he collected data from. But he only published 7 of them that agreed with his hypothesis. And his hypothesis was that fats are bad for you. So in the late 70s, we had the development of statin drugs. So it seems that some of these things were happening coincidentally, simultaneously. And in the late 70s, interestingly enough, began the sharp rise in type 2 diabetes, congestive heart failure, cardiovascular disease, and neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, MS, and ALS. So we would call that a coincidence? Maybe. Some continued facts. These are 2015 estimates, so I'm sure that they are even more at this point. Type 2 diabetes, an estimated 1.5 million new cases of diabetes were diagnosed among people ages 18 and older. Now, in 2023, we now see type 2 diabetes being diagnosed in children as young as 10 years old. So this has never before been seen. And I have my own hypotheses about why this is so. But we now have type 2 diabetics, type 2, which is the gift you give yourself, in children who are 10. Now, this is not type 1. Type 1 diabetes is very much genetic. It's very much has to do with pancreatic function. Children sometimes are born with this or diagnosed in childhood. And an interesting side note, we are always developing new diagnoses. We are now seeing adults who have had type 2 diabetes for many years convert to type 1. And type 1 means there is no insulin function in the pancreas at all in general. So we now have people that are type 2 wearing out their pancreas over time and converting to type 1. So again, some new things that we've not seen. Parkinson's stats have been estimated 7 to 10 million people worldwide, and with an estimated 4% of those people developing Parkinson's before the age of 50. In my last study that I conducted for CPF, we had a participant who was in her 30s who had just been diagnosed. The US is said to have the best healthcare system in the world. However, we have among the lowest longevity rates in the world. We are ranked 31st in the world for longevity. Our obesity stats are some of the best in the world. Yay, us. About 35% of people in 7 of our states are classified as obese, 30% in 29 states, and approximately 25% of people in 48 states are classified as obese. That's almost half. Our healthcare costs in 2017, and again, these stats would be very much higher, were estimated at $3.5 trillion, or approximately $10,000 per person. With the rise in diabetes since 2017, these numbers are much worse. More facts. Did you know that type 2 diabetes is reversible? Did you know that chemotherapy is more effective when used with a ketogenic diet along with fasting? We've known that for 30 years. And in oncology practice 30 years ago, it was the standard of care. Nowadays, it's kind of amazing to me that oncologists don't know about this approach. Symptoms of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and MS can be potentially reduced strictly through diet. And newsflash, medications don't fix health. They're not designed to. They're designed to manage symptoms. They have no relationship to the cause, to fixing the cause. A quote that I heard from one of the physicians I study with is, good health through nutrition and lifestyle makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't make a lot of dollars. So I'm going to use my train illustration because the last time I presented this, it really made sense to a lot of people. So we're going to talk about your liver. Your liver is of paramount importance to your entire body, all of your organ systems, including your brain. It has a lot to do with filtering toxins. It has a lot to do with handling fats, handling sugars. There's your liver is, without your liver, you're not here. So I'm going to give the illustration that the train is your liver, all right? And the station is your body in general, okay? So before breakfast, your station's pretty empty, isn't it? Everything's kind of hanging out, really not much going on. Sugar in my illustration are the people on the platform and the people on the train. So just remember that, before breakfast, there's a few people hanging out in your bloodstream. Nothing, nothing too bad, no crowding. Bloodstream's pretty happy. Insulin is a hormone that your body creates, mostly created in the pancreas, and they're the pushers. They're the guys that shove all your sugar out of the bloodstream because your bloodstream cannot handle large amounts of sugar hanging out. So the insulin's job is to be pushers that push your sugar into your liver. You see how these pushers are pushing the people into the train. Here's the US dietary guidelines. Eat more carbs. So this is your liver and bloodstream. All right. We seem to have a problem here. So how much sugar can your bloodstream handle at one time? 1 teaspoon. It's about 4 grams. So just keep this in mind. Now, everybody say out loud, how much sugar can your bloodstream handle at one time?
1 teaspoon.
All right, I'm going to ask you that question. There will be a quiz. Here's your first stop, your healthy breakfast. How many of you have this kind of breakfast? A fruit bowl, that's 29 teaspoons of sugar. A glass of fresh orange juice, that's 13 teaspoons of sugar. Your total healthy breakfast is 41 teaspoons of sugar in this illustration. How many teaspoons can your bloodstream handle at one time? 1 teaspoon. What is your body going to do with 41 teaspoons of sugar? You see your train? Looking pretty sad here. Second stop, Here's your healthy US typical lunch: a hamburger with fries, large soda, or a regular shake. 68 teaspoons of sugar. How many teaspoons can your bloodstream handle at one time?
1 teaspoon.
Thank you. What are you going to do with 68 teaspoons of sugar? Here's your poor liver, your train. Where are you going to put all this sugar? Your body is tightly regulated. It has to get the sugar out of the bloodstream. What are you going to do? You now have 100 and, if I'm remembering, 103, 104 teaspoons of sugar floating around. Your body's got to put it somewhere. Hire more pushers. Let's raise that insulin. Let's get that sugar out of the bloodstream. So your insulin is cranked up higher and higher and higher. Can anybody now see where we're headed? Your pancreas beta cells are cranking out the insulin to get this sugar out of your bloodstream, and we haven't even had dinner yet. Dr. David Unwin is a primary care physician in the UK, and he has developed this glycemic chart with common foods, and to just illustrate approximately how many teaspoons of sugar is in each of these foods. So you can see when we're talking about breads, excuse me, these are some different types of bread that people can eat. White bread's almost 4 teaspoons of sugar per slice. Who has 1 slice of bread? Now, you're going to say to yourself, well, I eat whole wheat. Let's see, whole wheat, whole grain barley bread is 5.5 teaspoons of sugar per slice. So even though it's bread, your body sees it as sugar. How about healthy fruit? Bananas are almost 6 teaspoons of sugar in a small banana. Now, as you go down this chart, the strawberries aren't too bad. There's a reason why fruits are high in sugar. When you think about it, years ago, we didn't really have fruit all year round. Think about your grandparents or even your great-grandparents. They didn't have access to fruit all year round. Typically, if you're buying locally, fruit would maybe come ripe in the fall. Well, there was a reason that God made it that way, because he knew you needed to put on fat for the winter. So what does the relationship of fruit have to gaining fat? Well, I hope you'll see that by the end of this presentation. Here's some typical vegetables. A potato boiled is almost 10 teaspoons of sugar. And then we have some different fruits at the bottom. Look at raisins. Oh my goodness. Dried fruit. You're thinking, oh, I'm eating dried fruit. That's very healthy. Well, your dried fruits concentrate that sugar, so it's even higher. Eat more carbs, put more people on the train. Now we're on the fatty liver express. So years ago, cirrhosis of the liver was related to excessive alcohol consumption. We have a brand new diagnosis. It's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And now we see that children are being diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. This is what the liver looks like. So your doctor recommends increase your medications. Let's hire more pushers. Let's push that sugar out of the bloodstream, because excessive sugar in the bloodstream is what causes damage to your arteries, what causes circulatory problems in the feet, which lead to amputations, what causes some of the problems with nerves and sensations in your feet, some of the neuropathies, what causes diabetic blindness. So your doctor's going to tell you your sugar's too high. Let's increase your medications. Your nutritionist will tell you to eat more often, stop at more stations. Okay. Pick up more people during the day, eat 5 to 6 meals a day. So you're constantly having to push sugar out of your bloodstream. So here are your results. We need more trains. Let's all be obese. We can have more fat tissue to store some of this stuff. All right. Hire more pushers. Increase your medications. Create more inflammation. Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, type 2 diabetes, PCOS, MS. Or logical solutions. We need fewer people on our platform. We need less sugar in our bloodstream. Eat fewer carbs. Okay. We need to make fewer stops so we're not picking up so many people. Eat 1 to 3 meals a day, period. No snacks. Eat 1 meal a day. Eat 2 meals a day. More people getting off the train, more people, more sugar getting out of your liver, out of your bloodstream. Get more exercise. Or fasting, intermittent fasting. Fewer breakdowns in your train. Reduce the inflammation. Hire more workers to build better tracks, build better trains, repair the tracks. That's your HDL cholesterol. Those are the good guys. So cholesterol isn't the same across the board. LDL, HDL, and triglycerides are all a little different. They have different functions. The HDL are the good guys. They kind of run around the bloodstream and help clean up inflammation. So we want more of those. And you'll find out how to raise those in a minute. Your train tracks are the blood vessels. So we want to keep them nice and repaired, clear, make efficient trains, build your muscles. And our study is going to look at, can adding MCT or coconut oil to a ketogenic diet also do some of these things? Another way that we can help our train overcrowding situation is to give it a rest. Intermittent fasting is another really effective method in reducing inflammation. We have another new diagnosis. It is called metabolic syndrome. This is not a diagnosis that we could make 10 years ago. But now people are in this situation and we have a brand new diagnosis. Yay us. So to qualify to be diagnosed with metabolic syndrome, you have to have high triglycerides. That's your triglycerides over 70. Low HDL, that's the good guys. Men under 40 and women under 50 milligrams per deciliter. You need a large waist circumference. Women over 35 inches, men over 40 inches. You have high blood pressure, anything over 130/80. The new American Geriatric Association guidelines are anything over 140/80. And high blood sugar. Your hemoglobin A1C is over 5.6. And I want you to note that LDL is not on the list. because that's what statins are prescribed for. What does a low carb, healthy fat ketogenic diet actually fix? What does it help to fix? Oh, it raises HDL, the good guys. Okay, we want that. It lowers your triglycerides. Triglycerides are a direct result of the amount of carbohydrates you eat, not the fats. It decreases your blood pressure. Oh, okay. Fixes that symptom too. It decreases your abdominal fat. Oh, it fixes that one too. And it decreases your blood sugar. Well, guess what? It fixes all 5 of the symptoms that you have to qualify for metabolic syndrome. Is this a coincidence? Maybe not. Here's our results of the past 50 years of medical and nutritional advice. We have a train wreck. And when you look at our health statistics, it's a train wreck. Something that we found just by looking at different countries and what they've decided to do this. Sweden decided they can't sustain their healthcare costs. It was bankrupting them as a government. And so in 2008, a primary care physician in Sweden actually was recommending the ketogenic diet to her patients, and they were reducing their medication use. They were improving their health overall, but then she was sued by 2 registered dietitians who didn't agree with the use of this nutritional approach. So as a result of the lawsuit, the Swedish government did an extensive review of the research literature, and they found that low carb, healthy fat is a viable and helpful dietary recommendation to improve health. Today, the Swedish government recommends that low carb, healthy fat ketogenic diets are a viable diet, nutritional approach for health, and 23% of Swedes eat low carb, healthy fat. Swedish healthcare costs are among the lowest in the world since 2008. Historically, diets were low in processed foods and carbs, very high in meats, fish, poultry, eggs, and dairy, with only seasonal fruits and vegetables as they became ripe. You can appreciate that our great-grandparents didn't have access to grains and greens all year long or fruit all year long. From the 70s to the present, now our diets are high in processed foods. Everything's in a box or a package, and there's this whole low-fat emphasis. Interestingly, since the 1970s, we've had increases in all chronic diseases and cancers, and then particularly the neurological diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, MS. So in the 70s, the US government began subsidizing grains, corn, and wheat. And so they ended up having a huge surplus of these agricultural products. So they needed a way to get rid of them. And so they made these foods a major foundational part of the food pyramid. You'll notice at the bottom of the pyramid is mostly grains, corn, and wheat. They also, with the close of the industrial age, when they had lots of industrial machinery, they were using cottonseed oil, which is a byproduct of the cotton industry, to oil their machinery. Well, as technology improved and increased, we didn't need a lot of that industrial machinery. What were they going to do with all this cottonseed oil? Well, they made Crisco out of it. Procter & Gamble decided they would just take all of this and make something that you cook with. We eat that? How many of you used Crisco in your past? I have. Did you know that the 1977 USDA food pyramid is the same pyramid that farmers use to fatten their livestock? It's used to fatten pigs, sheep, and cattle. How long do they live? The bottom line is high carb diets are designed, their purpose is to fatten livestock. That's why we use them. You ever wondered about a very marbled steak? That steer is hugely diabetic by the time that that steer is butchered. That's what creates the marbling of the fat. Did you know that as of October of 2018, the American Diabetes Association now recommends that LCHF ketogenic diets are a viable nutritional approach to improve health and reduce diabetes medications? That was a huge success when finally the American Diabetes Association began to recognize the research and incorporated it into their guidelines. Did you know that studies were showing our new recruits for military service were unhealthy? They were not healthy enough to pass the fitness evaluations to be recruited for military service. This became a huge concern to the Department of Defense and the Veterans Administration. And so they launched several research studies to study the nutritional approach of low carb, healthy fat, ketogenic diets to improve health. As of 2017, now the Department of Defense and Veterans Administration recommend that low carb, healthy fat, ketogenic diets are a viable nutritional approach for health. So if you don't believe me, do you believe the American Diabetes Association, or what about the Department of Defense and the Veterans Administration? In 2018, the American College of Physicians did a full analysis of all of the top recommended diets. Low carb, healthy fat, ketogenic diets ranked #1 among all recommended diets and nutritional plans for improving health. So if you don't believe me, would you believe the American College of Physicians? Since this time, the American College of Cardiologists has also recommended that this is a viable approach for cardiovascular disease. How about NASA? Since 2009, NASA has been studying the effects of this diet and the use of nutritional ketosis, which is the body's creation of ketones, on the prevention of oxygen toxicity seizures. Now, we know that for decades, the ketogenic diet has been used in the treatment of childhood epilepsy. We've known that seizures are greatly reduced with the use of this diet. Now, NASA has found that you can actually reduce the incidence of seizures in astronauts and Navy SEALs during prolonged diving with high oxygen environments. The seizures went from an onset of within 10 minutes of that environment. These individuals were experiencing seizures. Now these individuals can be in that environment for up to an hour without the onset of seizures. What did this tell us? That nutritional ketosis, or the production of ketones in the body, can be neuroprotective, can protect your brain. This research was of particular interest to me when I am looking at Parkinson's disease. So, audience participation, I do this every time. If you are gluten intolerant, you avoid. If you are lactose intolerant, you avoid
Lactose.
dairy. That's right. If you're allergic to seafood, you avoid
Seafood.
If you are carbohydrate intolerant, that is, you have diabetes, you have Parkinson's disease, you have Alzheimer's disease, you avoid carbohydrates. That's right. Here's the proposal that I made to the board, and I'm excited about our new study. This study is going to run through 2024. I'm going to target 3 nutritional approaches. The first is you eat what you normally eat. You go ahead and eat the standard American diet, and we're going to do some testing to see how's your body liking that. How's your brain liking that? How are you doing with it? The second approach will be the standard American diet, but we're going to ask you to add MCT or coconut oil daily. See if, test before and after, see what kinds of results we're having, if there's any changes, positive or negative. We're very interested if there are negative things as well. And then the third nutritional approach will be the low carb ketogenic diet plus the MCT and coconut oil. Again, testing before and after to see how's your body doing? What are your symptoms looking like? This is called a crossover trial design. So we're going to compare you in each of these nutritional approaches. Nutritional approach number 1, the SAD diet. So that's mostly your processed foods and boxes and packages. Very low glycemic, very few low glycemic vegetables. So you're eating a lot of starches, a lot of potatoes, a lot of rice, a lot of pasta. The foods that you eat are both high fat and high sugar because it's the combination of those two that have effect in your pastries, cakes, donuts, sodas. A lot of fast food. A lot of you eat a lot of fast food. Yeah, you could do that on this diet. And it's probably pretty close to what you're eating now. It's this pyramid. We already talked about this pyramid. You can see how all the starches are on the bottom there. And then you've got some vegetables and fruits. And then your dairy, and you get a little bit of meat, fish, poultry, and eggs. And then look at the top, you can have sugar. It's awesome. The USDA food pyramid has sugar at the top. More facts from the research. I already talked about currently 35% of the US population is obese. People cannot handle sugars and carbs as they cause increase in weight and chronic disease. Fats do not make you fat. That's a myth that has now been totally dispelled. It's not the fats you eat that make you fat. Humans are not designed to process grains and sugar. People are advised to eat them. Okay, we're not designed to process them, but we're advised that we should eat them. The inclusion of high fructose corn syrup in our food supply appeared to be associated with increases in neurodegenerative disease. Take time this week, read the labels on the things in your kitchen and see how many food items high fructose corn syrup is included in. It seems odd to advise humans to eat what makes them fat and sick. So for those with diabetes, if you do choose to start a low carb, healthy fat ketogenic diet, it's so effective that if you don't cut your insulin in half, you're going to be in big trouble because you won't need it. I'm a big believer in anybody taking any medication, I don't care what it is, that you test, that you note your symptoms, that you adjust your medications. A lot of people who have been diabetic for a while just continue to pop the same doses of oral meds, continue to inject the same level of insulin without ever testing. If your body doesn't need it, you need to be prepared to reduce some of your medications. So blood sugars for someone with diabetes, if they're lower than 120, you need to stop your insulin or at least cut it in half, or you're going to be in big trouble because the insulin will continue to drop your already lower blood sugar. So for those who are diabetic, who are in any of the studies that we do, they have to have close contact with their physician to adjust their insulin. So you have to be willing to test, and you have to be willing to consult with your doctor on adjusting your medications. This also goes for Parkinson's medications. You may find you may not need as much, or you may not need them as often. So these are the things that we need to have you consulting with your doctor regularly. Therefore, for any study that the team and I do, you have to have a note from your primary care physician or your neurologist to allow you to participate. They need to be aware that you're participating. On the last studies that we've done, I've been in contact with the neurologists when they had questions, or, they wanted to check on the status of the research, or, so forth and so on. In a lot of respects, I've gotten contacts, emails from neurologists who have stated, oh my goodness, this person has cut their medications in half. What's going on? So we've had some really good interest from the neurologists who've contacted us throughout the studies we've done. So nutritional approach number 2, you're going to continue to eat what you normally eat, which is probably the standard American diet, but you're going to add 3 to 5 tablespoons of coconut oil per day. And you're going to gradually build that up. Our goal is, if you can get 5 tablespoons of coconut oil or MCT oil per day, that would be the ultimate goal. Nutritional approach number 3 is going to be a standard ketogenic diet plus the MCT or coconut oil. And basically the diet's very easy. Meat, fish, poultry, eggs. You can have cheese, but very little dairy. Green veggies. You can cook with some of the more natural oils, avocado oil, olive oil, grass-fed butter, beef tallow, and lard. What did our grandparents cook with? Lots of lard and beef tallow, animal fats. And then you're going to be adding the MCT or coconut oil each day. You're going to be eating this food pyramid. So as you can see on a low-carb, healthy fat, ketogenic food pyramid, your foundation are the good fats and oils. And then your meat, poultry, and seafood. Then your eggs and cheese. Notice milk's not on here. Your salad and your green veggies, and then nuts and berries at the top. The low-carb, healthy fat, ketogenic diet is not a high-protein diet, okay? Therefore, it shouldn't interfere with your Parkinson's medications, but you all are good about monitoring and timing your protein intake with your medications, because you know this. Don't be afraid of the fats. That's what we're designed to eat. Did you know that your brain is 85% cholesterol and fat? So when we all went low fat, our poor brains weren't receiving the fats that they needed to function well. And then, of course, we're going to be adding some healthy fat to our phase 2 and phase 3 trials. So nutritional ketosis and protection for the brain. Ketones that are produced by eating fat and adding MCT oil are the brain's backup fuel when glucose is low or inaccessible. It actually prefers ketones. It's jet fuel to the brain. In Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, the problem is poor glucose use in the brain. It's an energy crisis in the brain. Now, some people have concluded in their research that the tau protein deposits and the tangles in the brain that are often seen in Alzheimer's and Parkinson's are an inflammatory response that the brain creates to try to deal with the inflammation in the brain. So we're finding that we used to think that these were causing Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and now the research is saying we think that it is a natural response that the brain is trying to handle the inflammation in the brain. So that's a very new avenue of research that's being conducted. Ketones created from this dietary approach can provide fuel to the brain to influence cognition with potential benefits for depression, anxiety, sleep, and fatigue. Thus, these are some of the variables that we're going to be looking at in this new study. Ketones can also be raised with ketone supplements. We're going to be using MCT oils or coconut oils. There are other ketone supplements, but we're going to target these healthy fats for our study. Did you know? So if you're not going to believe NASA or the ADA or the Veterans Administration or the American College of Physicians, how about God? Would you believe him? Babies are born in nutritional ketosis, which aids in brain protection and development. Did you know that breast milk is the quintessential ketogenic food? It's 80% fat, 15% protein, and 5% carbs for the most part. And then you wonder, I wonder why babies are fed exactly what is needed to encourage brain development and brain protection. I think there's something to that. Here's the proposal. Our study is going to be an 8-week crossover pilot study. We're going to investigate which nutritional approach is a safe and feasible treatment approach for improved health. So we're going to look at your biomarkers, symptoms of Parkinson's, cognition, sleep quality, and fatigue. The aim is to investigate these approaches using scores on some of the Parkinson's survey tools that are used for sleep, fatigue, and cognition. And then we're going to test your biomarkers of health, general health, which are HDL, triglycerides, hemoglobin A1C, your C-reactive protein, which is a marker for inflammation, and your fasting insulin. How many pushers is your body having to hire to get the sugar out of your bloodstream? Each of these dietary approaches will be 8 weeks. So this is our proposed timeline. So you'll start phase 1. You're going to eat the standard American diet, probably what you're eating now. You're going to start out by having some blood tests run and doing our surveys. At the end of 8 weeks, we're going to have a 4-week rest period. That is, you're just doing what you normally do. No interventions, no coconut oil, no nothing. Phase 2 is you're going to do the SAD diet plus your MCT or coconut oil. At the end of 8 weeks, we're going to do your blood tests again, and you're going to do the surveys again. Then you're going to rest for 4 weeks, go back to what you normally ate before the studies started, the standard American diet. Phase 3 is the low carb, healthy fat ketogenic diet plus your MCT or coconut oil for 8 weeks. And then we'll do the lab tests and the surveys again. Alternatively, depending upon how many people we have ready to start in October, we're going to recruit people on a rolling basis. Just as they apply, and as they're approved, they start the study on their own timeline. So that's our alternative proposed design, just depending on how many people we have that actually sign up for the study. So we're going to be comparing you to yourself. That's what will be kind of powerful through each of these dietary interventions. We're going to test you before and after with the blood work and with the surveys. Okay. We're going to use the Parkinson's cognitive rating scale, the Parkinson's fatigue scale, and the Parkinson's sleep scales. We're using Parkinson's specific scales that were rated and normed on people with Parkinson's. You're going to track what you're eating for us using a MyFitnessPal app, which is very easy to use, and we'll provide you training on that, or just writing down what you're eating. We're going to compare your blood work pre and post each phase. And then, yes, you're going to test your bloods every day. And everybody goes, oh my goodness, I have to stick my finger every day. Well, it becomes a habit. You wake up, you prick your finger before breakfast. We're going to provide you with the meters. They're free. The strips for the meters and the training on how to do this. All right. And Keto Mojo is going to work with us on training videos for you, tech support. We also, as a research team, will provide this for you. And then we're going to track your ketones as they increase in your bloodstream, which we're hoping they will, and your glucose. How are you doing on handling your people on the platform of your blood vessels? So you have to have access to a LabCorp in your area. I've already had 5 people from the United Kingdom contact me wanting to participate, and unfortunately they don't have LabCorp over there. And I had one person from Canada. So you have to have a LabCorp in your area. They're widely dispersed throughout the United States. That's where you're going to get all your free lab testing. You're going to have free lab testing, a free meter to use, free nutritional consultations. You're going to be able to meet with us, with the research team, anytime you want. And I'm thinking about setting up a Google Classroom where I can have all of the resources and handouts and videos that you can go on and access. We're going to test your body weight throughout the process and your waist circumference. Remember, that was one of the symptoms or markers of metabolic syndrome. You're going to do your questionnaires, and then we're going to hold your appointments over Zoom. So anytime you want to Zoom, we can Zoom. So your pre-study interview be about an hour. Then you'll go for your blood work. You'll eat your prescribed plan for 8 weeks. We'll let you know when your blood work is due and send you the lab slip to take to LabCorp. Your job will be to contact LabCorp and schedule an appointment. You're going to do your daily glucose and ketone testing and send those results to us. And for those of you who have a smartphone, Keto Mojo has created this new device that it will automatically upload your data to your smartphone and then upload that to my account where I can access on my research account and see exactly what your numbers are. So it'll be very, very easy for you. I'm going to make this recording, or CPF is going to make this recording live, available on their website, the recording, not live, but they're going to make the recording available on their website so you can go on and listen to it anytime. And then we're going to do a lot of our communication over email, over Zoom, and potentially over this classroom that I'm going to create. My research team, Doctors White, Dr. Dawn White, Dr. Tim White, are also going to be a part of helping with the Zoom appointments. They'll be helping with some of the trainings. We're gonna all be absolutely available to all of you. These are the variables, again, that we're testing that I've talked about. Again, precautions. If you have type 2 diabetes, you're going to really need to be monitoring your blood sugar. And those with congestive heart failure may need to adjust your salt intake, either up or down, just depending upon how your blood pressure responds. If you have leg cramps on this nutritional approach, you may need to add some salt. Sometimes adding potassium or magnesium also helps with, if you initially get some leg cramps, your body's getting used to a whole new approach. You're going to need to be testing your blood pressure, keeping track of that. Of course, you already know you need to time your intake with your Parkinson's meds, but you guys are masters at that. You may find that some of your Parkinson's symptoms seem to get a little worse the first week or two while your liver is detoxing all of this sugar out of your system. And then it'll settle down to where you might find that you need to adjust your Parkinson's medications. You're going to need permission from either your primary care physician or your neurologist to participate in this study. I want them to know what we're doing and be in contact with them. You're going to need to be in contact with them for adjustment of any medications. On the 12-week study, one of my participants was in constant contact with his physicians. When he started the study, he was basically in bed most of the time. And on 13 to 15 medications. And when he finished the study, he was on, I think, 5 medications and beginning to work out at a gym. So we need to be adjusting those medications, weaning them off when necessary. We also want you to know that your physician is your lifeline to health and medical advice. We are not substituting our study for medical advice. And so when you're needing to adjust medications, you need to be talking to your physician. This study is intended as a pilot study to identify trends in the application of these nutritional approaches to the treatment of a variety of Parkinson's symptoms and effects on general health. Additionally, the study is hoping to identify nutritional effects on symptoms of sleep, cognition, and fatigue. All right, we are to the question and answer.
Anyone? Yes.
When she mentioned how much the body can handle at one time, the 1 teaspoon of sugar, she didn't give a timeline. Are we talking 5 minutes, an hour?
Mary Taylor would like to know how long it takes to deal with that 1 teaspoon of sugar.
So variable between people, it depends on a number of factors. One, any other medications you're on will influence how quickly your body handles the sugar. For example, if you're on insulin, it's going to handle that sugar really quickly, probably within 15 minutes. If you're not on any insulin or diabetes medications, it depends on your body size, your weight, your body fat percentage. Because if you have more fat that your insulin can push the sugar into, obviously it's going to clear the sugar out of the bloodstream relatively quickly. Typically, the standard recommendation is within an hour, your blood sugar should return to baseline after a meal. So when you're diabetic and you're taking medications, the recommendation is to test your blood sugar an hour after you eat. If your blood sugar at that point is above 120, your body didn't like what you just ate. So, you know, typically it's an hour, but it depends on those factors that I mentioned.
Thank you.
She says, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Suzette. MCT. What is MCT? Oh yeah, medium chain what?
Triglycerides. So
Triglycerides.
medium chain triglycerides are the precursor or the thing that helps you develop the ketones in your bloodstream. Now, the word triglyceride you hear is like, that's a bad thing. No, it's a bad thing in your bloodstream, and those are just triglycerides. Medium chain triglycerides are a type of fat that your body utilizes for a number of ways. Number one, your brain absorbs those through the liver as jet fuel. It's a readily available fuel for the brain. All right. Number two, medium chain triglycerides also are absorbed into your mitochondria. They're the little power cells, powerhouses of the cells in your body. And we find that, as in the NASA research, medium chain triglycerides help with reduction of inflammatory markers. We're going to be testing your C-reactive protein markers that tells us what's your general inflammation. Now, little side note here, because it just popped into my brain. When you go for a PET scan, when they're looking for cancer, all right, they infuse glucose or sugar into the IV that you get, because cancer cells will light up, pick me, and take in all that sugar. Anybody with a cancer diagnosis should then think, oh, well, if I'm not taking in sugar, my cancer cells won't have what they need to grow. Thus, we've used the ketogenic diet in oncology for decades. So just a little aside about glucose. Alzheimer's disease has been now classified as type 3 diabetes.
Diabetes of the brain, right?
That's right. And that means that your brain is no longer handling the sugar that you're eating. All right. And so the brain actually prefers ketones. It prefers the ketones that are created through basically two ways. One, fasting. If you fast, you then begin to create these ketones in your blood, and it feeds your brain. Or two, addition of a ketone supplement, which would be the MCT or coconut oil.
Yes, Joe.
My wife has had Parkinson's for close to 10 years, 12 years, possibly Lewy body dementia. It's been treated for Parkinson's. And part of that is that it's been an absolute battle to put weight on her. And because of that, I have her on the ultimate American diet. Basically, she has ice cream, dessert, and lunch, and it's really difficult to get the nutritional density and the ease of consumption because she has muscle issues.
Right.
How hard is it to duplicate what I'm doing with a ketogenic diet?
Did you hear all that, Melanie?
I heard most of it. So the ketogenic diet can be used in addition. It's a very effective weight loss diet, but it's also a very effective weight gain diet. And the reason is fats are the most calorie dense food on the planet. You can get more calories in a person with an increased fats diet than you can with an increased carbohydrate diet. So a lot of what we recommend, especially in Parkinson's where weight is the issue, is that you try to gradually increase the fats to take the place of the carbs and sugar, because there are two effects. One, you're getting more calories in. And two, you're eliminating the sugars that cause the inflammation. When I say sugars, I mean carbohydrates. Did you know that on food packaging, they don't put carbohydrates as sugars, they put them separately. So you think This only has 7 grams of sugar, but it has 47 grams of carbohydrates. No, the body recognizes all of that as glucose. Did you know that your body does not know the difference between an apple and a Snickers bar? It handles them both the same. So you have to think about, yes, increasing calorie density for those who have trouble with weight. And 2, as much as you can, reducing the carbohydrate intake to reduce the inflammation and the burden on the brain. Adding MCT oil is an easy way to increase the fats. That's coconut oil as well. Increase the fats, increase the calorie density in a diet, and benefits to the brain. Now, do you just all of a sudden start swigging 5 tablespoons of coconut oil? I guarantee you, you will end up in the bathroom 4 days. So you have to, you have to gradually increase your intake of these healthy fats because your body's not used to it. What we find, side note, is that MCT oil or coconut oil improves your gut permeability. In other words, your intestinal tract begins to process foods a little more efficiently, because we do find that people with neurodegenerative diseases also have associated problems in their GI tract. They're either not absorbing what they need to absorb, or they have associated things like diverticulitis, chronic colitis, Crohn's disease, celiac disease. So the healthy fats also feed the gut biota, which is going to help with absorbing the nutrition. So it's all in effect. There are easy ways, and a lot of my people who are gaining weight for me on this diet, I have some shake recipes that they're adding their healthy fats to get the shakes down, because a lot of them also have chewing and swallowing problems. So we're using some shakes, high fat shakes that are beginning to put weight on them, and so forth. I have a
I need that,
story.
Melanie.
Huh?
I need that.
Yeah. So I have a story, and I don't know if she's listening. I'm not going to mention any names, but there was a woman who contacted Julie, and maybe even you, Jill, that had issues with her adult son who had Parkinson's, who was basically bedridden, and the doctors had given up, and he was kind of on his way out. And one of the things I recommend, and he wasn't able to really eat anything or move out of bed or anything. And one of the things I recommended to her was a ketogenic formula. They're even making formula now for people on feeding tubes. And it's a formula, it's a very high fat kind of shake formula with some added MCT or coconut oil. And within, if I remember correctly, within 3 days, her son was sitting up and participating, and, just a lot more alert. And the doctors had basically just given up and said, well, he'll be gone in, a month. So we've seen the MCT oil truly turn around some of these symptoms and begin to help the body to absorb the nutrition that they're already getting. I would hypothesize that your wife is not absorbing a lot of the nutrition that she's getting. And, we find benefits to, if we can just get the calorie density up, get the fats on board, get the inflammation down, that they can begin to put on weight. And then we add a protein component, of course, timed with the Parkinson's meds, but we add a little more protein to deal with the muscle issues that also come along with what I call cachexia, which we see in cancer treatment quite a bit. I hope I answered your questions.
I want to insert one thing just to make sure you guys clearly heard her call them healthy fats. She just generally was saying fats a few times, that that's not corn oil, that's not
right.
canola oil, not any of those poisons. Essentially, the polyunsaturated fats are not healthy fats. They're the avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oil, MCT oil, those
Right.
kind, and you know, good meat fats. So
Right.
be sure that you're clear on that. Mary.
Not two questions. Is there a difference in any of the MCT oils? I've been seeing them more in different companies. And I had heard rumors that in our grocery stores, the mafia has put canola oil in the olive oil, and only if you know how to taste olive oil, you're really not getting olive oil. You may be getting a little, but it's not pure olive oil.
I have heard that about the Italian olive oils, that the mafia over there is what's doing it. Did you catch all that? Is there a difference in MCT oils, the various ones that you see in the grocery?
Yeah. Yeah. So when we're talking about MCT oil, we want the organic. If you can find it, Amazon has good Nativa MCT oil. It's very high quality. It's a little more pricey. It's not that expensive, but it's a little more pricey than just coconut oil that you can find in the grocery store. Now, with the coconut oil, you want the cold pressed coconut oil that's not been processed. Luana makes coconut oil, but it's been hydrogenated and processed, and coconut oil in its pure form looks like lard. It is solid. That's how you can tell the quality. If you find a coconut oil and it's liquid at room temperature, it's not coconut oil. I hear what you're saying about olive oil. There's such an olive oil crisis. And to get high quality olive oil, you're spending so much money. And you have to be really careful about the companies that you get the olive oil from. So I hear exactly what you're saying. Now, olive oil is a monohydrated oil. It has good benefits, but it's different than a coconut oil. The coconut oil is the medium chain triglycerides. So, for example, my husband doesn't like the taste of coconut. So we get MCT oil that's tasteless to put in everything. I have it in my coffee every morning. You can pour it on things. I mean, you can cook with it, but MCT is just a little more expensive than coconut oil. If that's the one you can do, then that's do the one that you will do is my point. But yes, they're very different. You have to really read the label. You want minimal processing. One of the things about the keto craze in the mainstream media is it's not keto. If anything's in a box or a package, it's not keto. The ketogenic diet is built upon whole foods in their most natural form. All right, the way God made them. So if you're looking at greens, get them fresh if you can. All right. Frozen's probably the next one that's pretty good. Canned is maybe the last. But if that's all you can get, that's all you can get. People tell me, oh, I will never do that diet. It's too expensive. However, what I have found is when you count the costs of all the boxed and packaged and processed stuff you're eating, and then you don't eat that, it's amazing how much your food bill will actually drop to buy good quality meats. Now, do you have to eat grass-fed, grass-finished, panda massaged meat? No. It's great if you can afford that. That's awesome. Go for it. But if all you have access to are grain-fed meats, then that's what you have access to. If you can get grass-fed butter, get grass-fed butter. That's awesome. But if your food budget won't allow that, butter is so much better than margarine. Margarine is a processed Crisco-like product. Think about, they oiled machinery with this stuff and now we're eating it. It's the same with the seed oils. They're really not oils. They've been pressed and boiled and chemicals added to them. Canola, sunflower, safflower, vegetable, those are so far away from what your body recognizes. I would stay with the beef tallow, the lard. I went into a store one day and said, I'm looking for beef tallow. And the young clerk went, what is that? Well, it's all our grandparents ever cooked with. So yeah, really good point about read those labels, know where your oils are coming from.
Thank you.
And Julie added that keto friendly is not keto.
No,
You see a lot of that on packages. It's not keto.
She said if it's in a package.
Yeah, right.
right.
Exactly.
Like I said, if it's in a box or a package, it's not keto, really. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Right. Here, another short question.
Quick comment. I have been controlling inflammation in myself and my wife using an oil. And my wife was unable to tolerate the amount of oil that's in the therapeutic dose until she was diagnosed with osteoporosis. When she upped her calcium intake, she's now able to handle half of the dose, whereas before a quarter was maximum. If this was not a pilot study, I wouldn't mention this out loud, but it's something I'd like to, considering what population you're working with is primarily older people, probably half of women. Do you see this as compounding or benefiting what you're trying to do?
So I'm so glad you said that. I'm actually conducting a case study right now on a female in her 60s with osteoporosis on a ketogenic diet. So we are balancing the calcium. Calcium is a mixed bag. The type of calcium you're getting, calcium carbonate, is always associated with GI upset, is not well absorbed by the body, and causes a lot more problems than it's worth. Calcium citrate and calcium hydroxyapatite are the two forms of calcium that are more readily absorbed. They don't tend to be associated with as many GI problems, gastrointestinal problems. If they're timed with food, they have good absorbability, but they need to be accompanied by, I know it gets more complex, vitamin K2. And vitamin K2 is the vitamin that takes the calcium and shoves it into your bones and not into your arteries. So there, one of my studies that I'm doing right now is on women with osteoporosis, which, when I do research for CPF, it's all Parkinson's related, but I hope to even expand my studies in osteoporosis. I'm in that age group, and then note the differences in the types of calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, and K2. Those are the 4 vitamins that are needed in osteoporosis. Now, you ask what association then that adding the fats could have. Again, what I think the fats can do is influence the gut microbiome to absorb the calcium more efficiently. I have not read any direct results of ketosis on bone mineral density. That's something that I'd like to investigate. But I know that the ketones that are generated by eating the healthy fats do help absorbability in the gut that could absorb the calcium supplementation better. there are some good sources of calcium for people with osteoporosis that are marine based. They're based on coral, they're based on algae. Some of the things that we're finding on the marine based calciums is that, again, your body knows what to do with them. Calcium carbonate, your body doesn't know what to do with it. And unfortunately, a lot of us fell prey to, we took calcium for a while, then we stopped taking it because there was so much research coming out about, oh, it increases your cardiovascular disease. And then we now have a generation of women, specifically in their 60s, that have osteoporosis because we all went off calcium for a while. So it's really I've done a deep dive into the osteoporosis literature because I'm very interested and I'm conducting a case study right now. But I do believe that increasing the fats in the diet, and you can add some food calcium in the form of cheese and Greek yogurt. Now, there is some evidence, I don't think it's very strong evidence, that some of the dairy products can interfere with some of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. I almost never recommend milk. Milk is really not used by anybody over 2 years old. Well, but some of the plain Greek yogurts have some good calcium sources in them with some of the probiotics that also could help with that gut biome to begin to absorb your nutrition. And then some cheeses. So if you have an if you're in my study, at our study, and you have an associated problem with bone density, then that's something that the participant and I can talk about in terms of increasing some of the calcium availability with vitamin D, magnesium, and K2. It's a 4-pronged approach. So, you know, I agree with you that as we all age, we're going to have different needs. And that's what I love about the Zoom format. I can Zoom with participants and we can tailor some of the macronutrients in your diet to meet your specific needs. So thanks for that question.
Any other questions?
Just to repeat, she said calcium citrate and something else.
Yeah, what was the other calcium, Melanie?
It's not as well known, but it's certainly available. Calcium hydroxyapatite. Hydroxyapatite is a form in the trabecular development of the bone matrix that if you can find calcium in that form, again, it's going to be more readily absorbed. Of course, you can't talk about bone mineral density without also talking about exercise. So, you know, it's a really multi-pronged approach. And this is what I'm doing in the case study that I'm conducting, is the effects of whole body vibration, which is a lot of the studies done now out of Johns Hopkins, and then the use of a weighted vest as you're doing your daily tasks. So weight bearing and exercise have to be an integral piece of dealing with an osteoporosis issue. Now, if you're not very active or not able to do a lot of exercise, there are some weighted vest activities, some chair core activities that also can be adapted to give you some weight bearing for your bone density.
Okay, thank you so much. As soon as you're done, go ahead and stop the recording. I won't leave that to continue.
I will stop it right now.
You're getting applauded in case you couldn't hear that.
Oh, good.